Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons vs. Eagles post-game special. I am, of course, your host, Kevin Knight, at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter, joined tonight by my co-host, Mr. Evan Birchfield. You know him as at Evan Birchfield on Twitter. And we're here to finally celebrate the Falcons' win. In case, I know many of you are probably looking forward to me being like super depressed on this show, and I was almost there. I was really close, but the Falcons found a way to win this game. It was not pretty for large swaths of it, and we're definitely going to get into that. But there's also, there's some celebration deserved, and we'll give people props as well. But before we get into all that, Evan, how are you doing this evening?
Well, I'm a lot better now. I mean, it's just like that ending made all the rest a blur. It's like everything before that Julio Jones play just kind of, it's like the Men in Black thing. It was crazy because it was such a like we lost feeling, and then that happened, and now I feel like I don't remember anything.
yeah, it's well, the thing is, and like I'm gonna try not to fall into this trap because of what I said last week as well, but like teams winning games tends to, I guess, gloss over issues. Like, if you find a way to come out with the victory, you can kind of overlook a lot of the things that went wrong in a game. And we're going to celebrate because it's deserved, but also, there are some things we're going to talk about, so, because I want to be fair. Like, last week I told you guys not to freak out about the bad game. And I'm also going to tell you tonight not to freak out the other direction about this good game. Like, it's the same thing, just different week. Obviously, a win is always better for lots of reasons, but this is not a game that I would react strongly to one way or another. But it is, nice to say the least. It's nice, and you gotta love that it's against an NFC contender and a rival and all these things, and it's just all good. But Evan, I want to give you a second to talk about this game. So why don't you just get us started here with some of your takeaways from tonight's performance?
Yeah. So I made like a little cheat sheet or whatever, so to speak, just during the every quarter I like to jot down just some notes. So, we start off with the Bryant field goal, and this was all in the first quarter. Start off with the Bryant field goal. Isaiah Oliver, I'll talk about at the very end, but he made a great open field tackle on a set. I think it was like a 2nd and 10 or something like that. And then what was it? The Julio Jones DPI that didn't get called for some reason, even during the halftime show. Rodney Harrison, he would never admit to a defensive penalty, but he even was like, that was defensive pass interference. But we're used to it as Falcons fans. Julio, being the best and all, you don't always get the calls, I guess. And the offense looked rough. And this was all just the first quarter. Matt Bosher, I guess, more information might come out, but I guess something happened pregame where he hurt his groin was tightened, so he wasn't doing the opening kickoffs. Matt Bryant, pretty much did that. They even had Sanu in pregame practicing punts or something. So, and you could tell even when he did the punts, they were like way too short.
Yeah.
So that was basically a summarization of the first quarter. I don't know if you want me to keep going.
No, you're good. I got my tweets off, so I think we're okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, guys, like when we, peek behind the curtain here, like especially on these like nail biter games, like it's, I can't get up from the couch, especially in a primetime game, and like go upstairs and start putting the show together until literally the game is over, especially when it's in doubt. So I appreciate you guys' patience. I know last week you guys were spoiled. Like I started at like 5 minutes after the game last week, but normally it's a little longer.
About this. Me and you are both fans. We haven't been sitting there. We watched it happen like everybody who's watching right now watched it happen. Like we weren't sitting there, just at our computer prepared to discuss. We thought we didn't know how it was going to go.
Right.
So I think that's what the cool thing is with your show is, this is real and we're fans just like everybody else. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a unique perspective, and obviously, we love hanging out with you guys and chatting about the game, and it's a unique thing. So we're glad to provide this service to you guys. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting game on a lot of levels. Obviously, I I really think the defense like stepped up and played really well. Like obviously they didn't have like a perfect game. That 4th down completion to Aguilar, like part of that was just like a really fantastic play. Just a freakish play. Like 90% of quarterbacks are not going to get that ball out. Like they're not going to be able to get that pass off. That's just Wentz's thing. Like he's a freak of nature physically. He's so strong that the Falcons pass rush needs to be lauded for making him uncomfortable because he's so athletic and tough to bring down. Like they were in his face all night. They were making things uncomfortable for him with arguably one of the best lines, if not the best offensive line in football. This was not a performance against, Houston's offensive line or something like that. This was against a truly elite offensive line. So I think, after this game and seeing, they did some positive things, I think, against Minnesota too that are obviously overlooked because the Vikings only attempted 10 passes. But, these guys came to play. They were bringing the pressure constantly. I mean, Vic Beasley, came up with some very clutch plays in that game. Takk McKinley was on fire. Adrian Clayborn played well. We saw John Kaminsky even get involved a little bit there at the end of the game just to give guys a breather. But the other part of the defense to me was the run defense, who showed up in this game. Like I know people were freaking out about last week, but they basically bottled up Philly's run game throughout the entire contest. Like this game was close the whole time. This was another situation where the Falcons could have been facing 30-plus rushing attempts, and they could have got ground down by the run game, and they did not. They really stepped up. You could tell that that was a point of emphasis this week in practice. The discipline errors weren't there. They held contain. I thought guys were flying around. I mean, they just looked comfortable this week as opposed to last week on defense. So, do you have any takeaways on the defense's performance tonight?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was if somebody bet you that Drew Font would catch 2 interceptions, you probably would take that bet.
Yeah.
Like, who really saw? I mean, one of them, he was literally like sitting on the ground and it fell into his lap. You can't be happy, you just so happy for the guy because, I don't know how much he pays attention to social media, but people have been, kind of on his case about dropping interceptions and, that probably deserved in certain situations and whatnot. But, he really stepped up, and Isaiah Oliver, as I mentioned earlier, really stepped up, and you saw that with that final play against Ertz that won the game for us. So, you got to feel good about the secondary. You look at, Keanu Neal always hits, but that Ricardo Allen one in the end zone where I think it was Aguilar, where he just popped him in the back. That hurt to watch. Yeah. But just such a, you love to see that because he's not a big guy. He's like 5'8", 5'9", but he plays the game right. If you saw, he went, I think it was it Sheffield, who was up close and he went and told him, to signal where he was going to go or whatever. And then, Aguilar or whatever it was ran past him, and it was like he knew. It just shows you, that play right there shows you why he is a leader on defense and why he is was rewarded with being a captain for the 2019 season. But very impressive. Just another, leader on defense, same way Debo is, and Keanu Neal and Grady and whoever else. But
you're absolutely right. Yeah, and I definitely love to those guys. Like I think Ricardo Allen is underappreciated sometimes when he's on the field because he's not the flashiest athlete. Like we know he's never been a player that just wins with his great athleticism. Like he's a good enough athlete, and how he wins is that he might be the smartest person on the field, like period. Like he is so intelligent. He knows he can see the field super well. He has great instincts for the position. He's always getting guys lined up in the right spot, noticing things. He watches more film maybe than anybody on the team. It's just really impressive. And when you lose that presence on defense, like that matters more than just what he actually does on a play-by-play basis, like what he does in terms of tackles or interceptions or whatever. Like losing his mental part, the leadership role that he has, that was arguably a bigger loss I think last year than just the physical loss of him being on the field, and it's so valuable. I'm so glad to see him back on the field. But Trufant, he's finally learned how to catch. That was the one thing missing I think from his skill set as a corner. Coming up with 2 picks in this game. Both were just excellent plays by Trufant. Like one, he had to literally fall down to stay in the right position, and he just kind of sat there and waited for it, and that was fantastic. And then the other one was just amazing as well. And the Falcons probably should have had more picks in this game, honestly. There were a couple that were dropped, but you can't get all of them. Turnovers are kind of random that way, but I was super impressed with that. And I'm going to take a short break here for a breath, but I do want to remind you folks, if you want to help support the show, I'm sure there's a bunch of new people in tonight. Over 133 viewers right now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. If you don't mind tossing us a like and a subscribe, that really does help out the channel. So if you're enjoying the program, we do appreciate that. And also, if you guys have questions, be sure to throw those in the chat. We will try to get to some of those throughout the evening as well. So thank you guys. Well, you mentioned Oliver early in the show, and a guy that was kind of vilified for his week 1 struggles. Really had a rebound game tonight. Wasn't perfect. He's still young and developing, but he came up with the play to seal the game there in this game. His tackling, his tackle on Ertz, perfect positioning, hit him hard. Ertz is not an easy man to tackle. That dude is gigantic. He is strong. So for Oliver to be able to make that hit and bring him down short of the 4th down, just fantastic. But what are some of your thoughts on Isaiah Oliver's second game here?
It was definitely impressive. The Eagles, even though Deshaun Jackson went out, they have, one of the better receiving cores out there. But yeah, it's him and Trufant. It's just, I don't know how you, even with as close as the game was, come away from this game feeling like not, excited about our secondary. Like they all played perfectly. The defense even in general did well. There were moments you can pretty much pick apart, like, the play where Wentz was able to get off that pass for a first down because his knee was like this much off the ground.
0.1 inches or something, like craziness.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure when they froze it, you could almost see it was almost touching. Like if he
maybe one blade of turf was there. Yeah.
But there's not a whole lot to really pick apart on the defensive side. I don't want to bash Matt Ryan, but he made a lot of bonehead decisions.
Yeah.
It was under pressure, but even if he wasn't, some of the throws weren't really necessary. And you got to know to get rid of it. But, the defense kept us in the game.
Yeah.
They won it at the end.
They did. You're exactly right. Like, we don't expect the defense to be elite, and they shouldn't have to be for this team to win games. Holding the Eagles to 20, that's exactly what we need them to do. Like, that's a very good performance. This is an Eagles team that was down, 17-0 last week, and then came back and put up 30-something points in the second half. This is a team that can get hot really quick and score a lot of points. And, it should be noted that they did lose, several of their wide receivers in the first and second quarter. Alshon Jeffrey went out. Deshaun Jackson was out and came back in and then was out again. Dallas Goedert, I think, was a little bit roughed up early, or maybe in pregame. I can't remember what exactly happened with Goedert. I know that he was questionable to start the game. So, they were missing, some of their weapons, but this is still a Philadelphia team that, they claim, the Falcons claim to have the best wide receiver trio. The Eagles have claimed to have the deepest wide receiver group. And, that depth was definitely tested tonight. We did see some positive performances there. Aguilar had a great game. He's a very savvy player, and he tried his best to carry the weight there. Mac Hollins is no slouch. They have the highly drafted rookie J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who wasn't really able to get anything going in this game. But so I don't want to discount the Falcons' performance on defense, because it was still against Wentz and a top offensive line and a very strong running game, and they still had Zach Ertz, who's arguably their number one receiver. So I'll definitely say that the Eagles weren't at full strength, but the Falcons defense should still get credit for a strong performance overall. But what the main issue I think was tonight was the offense, and not even really the offense as a whole, just the turnovers. I thought outside of Matt Ryan's really dumb throws, the running game was solid. They weren't exactly consistently running the ball until later in the game, but they were fine. And then the passing game was clicking pretty much the whole game. There was obviously some plays that got blown up, but Matt Ryan generally had pretty good protection. He was only sacked once. But so outside of those couple of dumb throws, I thought, the offense was actually pretty good on the whole, but should we be concerned about Matt Ryan at all? This is now 2 games he's had now with multiple interceptions. Are you concerned at all, or do you think this is just kind of the early season adjustment happening?
Probably more. I'm not worried about it at all. It's, he's an MVP, so you got to give him kind of the benefit of the doubt there. But, he's still, the throws he made were a little worrisome where he overthrew, I think it was Hardy and Ridley, and then he ended up connecting with Ridley, obviously. But, those were opportunities where the Falcons could have went up. And then the one to Hooper in the end zone, he was like triple covered. So it was just like, hopefully it's just more of him getting nervous about getting hit or something. But, it wasn't like he threw 5 interceptions and no touchdowns. Then I'd be worried. But, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. It happens.
Yeah.
It wasn't a fantastic game. But, if you look for somebody on the team who's going to be able to pick themselves back up off of, a rough game, I'd say, it's Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
So I'm not, to answer your question, I'm not concerned with it.
Okay.
But if we would have lost, in fairness, it would have been because of him. Because
yeah.
we were, when you look at it, we only had 1 field goal. Like, that's insane compared to how many times. Let me look and see.
And one was shanked, which was the only bad play for Matt Bryant in this game.
And as a Matt Bryant lover, I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened either. That I could have sworn it was tipped because it was like I've never seen him shank a kick like that.
Yeah,
so,
I want to blame the position of the ball. Maybe it was, I don't know. Okay, I can cuss on here, right?
Yeah.
I don't know shit about kicking a ball and stuff. I don't know about the placement and laces out or whatever. So I'm hoping that's what it was, but it looked like it was tipped by an imaginary hand. Yeah. That's the only, I've never seen a kick.
A gust of wind, came in somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he hit that other 50-yarder and it looked perfect.
He
so,
did.
I'm not concerned about Bryant.
Yeah, and then he hit the PATs and it was no big deal. It wasn't he hit them straight and true. So I think that was just a fluke.
I agree.
And it could have been something more to do with, Bosher holding it, something bending down with his groin or
it could
I don't know. I didn't get a good look at it, but
it wasn't like he put it up. Yeah, it wasn't like he put it up and it was short, like he couldn't get enough distance or all these things. It was just a bad kick. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
That happens sometimes. It happens to everybody. So I'm not concerned. He hit the other 50-yarder. It's fine. I know folks are asking about Bosher, and we'll talk about him. I know someone pointed out that we should allow less than 20 points a game, and I did want to give folks some context on that. So you guys know a little bit more about what the average points that NFL defenses give up. And I'm going to use last year's stats because this year's stats are totally messed up. The New England Patriots have allowed 1.5 points per game over 2 games. So you got to wait a few weeks for these stats to actually even out. But in 2018, the league average defense, which was actually tied between the Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers, allowed 22.5 points per game. So allowing 20 points, it would actually have made the Falcons the 5th best defense, or the 6th best, I guess, depending on how you read this. So 20 points a game is really good. That's a very low number, especially for the NFL, the modern NFL. Allowing 20 points or less a game is very, very good. We're talking top 5 defense good. So if they allow 20 points a game, hell yeah, sign me up for that. They don't need to allow 17. They don't, the Falcons offense should score more than 17 goddamn points every week. Okay, let's just make that clear. But just wanted to give you guys some context there. But on the Bosher front, we really don't know much. The fact that he was still able to punt at some kind of level probably means that it's not overly serious. I doubt they would have let him go out there and punt at all if it was that serious. Now it's possible he made it a lot worse by going out there and punting, but it's just a little early for us to know anything there. I was honestly a little bit excited to see if Sanu would punt it, because apparently he can punt. And I would never doubt Sanu in any endeavor that he tried. So maybe that would be okay. But hopefully he's okay. We don't really know too much there. I know fans are also asking about Luke Stalker, who has been just awful these first 2 games.
Yeah.
It's still really early. He's coming to a new team, a new offense. We do need to give him some time, but the early returns are not good on Luke Stalker. Luckily, they do have some guy named Jaden Graham who was awesome in the preseason. So maybe this is, we start to see the Jaden Graham emergence happening. And Jaden Graham, the one thing with that is, that wouldn't be too upsetting to me if Jaden Graham got some snaps because I think he looked great in preseason. Do you have any thoughts on that tight end rotation with Stalker struggling?
I mentioned it during the game. I don't know why Jaden Graham ain't out there more. He just, like you said, during preseason, I mean, we talked about it on your show previously that he just looked apart. Stalker, if you want to bring him in to block, that's fine. But if you're going to be passing the ball, like, you're not tricking anybody with him. He's just, I don't understand. But, I'm not a coach, so
yeah,
that's on him. But, yeah, I mean, I'd love to see more Graham. If you're not, going to be just forcing it to Hooper, bring Graham in on those passing situations. It's a waste to have Stalker in there if he's just going to, and he actually was blocking, who was it? 55 for the Eagles.
I should know who that is, but I
think it's Graham, ain't it?
I think so.
Anyways, he missed the block and he came right in, and I think that was the first sack of the game for the Falcons. I can't remember. I'll have to look it up, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I get what you're saying though. Mm-hmm.
I have no opinion on him personally, nothing against him.
No.
I think Jaden Graham has showed, and he's young too, and he's he hurdled a guy. Do you think Stalker could hurdle a guy? He fumbled it,
right?
Remember? And then Sanu jumped on it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was crazy. So I mean, I'm glad that Sanu was there, but yeah, not a great play there. So Stalker is going to have to start eating his Wheaties and get some positive plays on tape, or else Jaden Graham's coming for his job. So Logan Paulson's still out there. We can always go back. So keep that in mind, like Stalker. It's still very early in the season. Guys need a little bit of time. So. Yeah, I mean, people are asking about the offensive line, so we can get to that part now. I thought as a whole, they were fine. It wasn't, ideal necessarily, but, the Eagles are known for having a great front. Obviously, Malik Jackson was out, so that took a little bit of pressure off the interior, but they still have Fletcher Cox, who's, the second best defensive player in the NFL, at least defensive tackle. And they still have two, strong edge rushers. They're not quite as dangerous, I think, as they have been in years past, but they're still good. And they were just dialing up blitzes constantly. They were really trying to take advantage of those new players on the right side. And to their credit, I thought that the Falcons' offensive line held up about as well as you could hope. An elite offensive line might play it a little differently. And I have a feeling if these guys had more reps together, it would have been a little smoother. But as a whole, I was impressed. And McGarry, that I be totally honest with you guys, I thought that was potentially a season-ending ankle injury for McGarry. I was freaked out by it.
Yeah.
He looked like he was in serious pain. Help. He needed pain. He needed help to get off the field. This man came back into the game. What in the hell? I'm not arguing with it, but that's crazy to me. So now, after I've rambled, I will allow you to. I'm switching to water, folks. So I will allow Evan to give his takes on the offensive line now.
No, I think you summed it up pretty good. I mean, it was scary with McGarry because it was we were in a good spot, and then all of a sudden that happened, and it was everybody's obvious attention went to it because that was our first two first round picks that we potentially could have lost for a while, and we're watching the game, and all of a sudden he's out there. Even the announcers are like, "Is that McGarry? Is he back?"
Yeah.
Nobody had any idea because when he was hobbling off, he looked like you said, he broke something. He was using the help of the trainers and stuff like that. So no, I mean, I'm sure he'll be limited in practice and stuff because, it could be adrenaline. He seems like a very tough guy.
Yeah.
So but obviously nothing, long-term damage or anything.
If it was that serious, he would not have been back out there. So it's possible it just got a little rolled up, and those can be very painful initially, and then they probably shot him up with some Toradol, and he's back out there. So
definitely.
So,
and then also, the one sack was by Sendejo, who was with the Vikings. I didn't even know he was on the Eagles, but a safety sack. It's not like we were getting abused by pass rushers.
No.
I mean.
No, that was a pretty insane blitz. I think that was 2 or 3 additional rushers on that play.
I mean, honestly, that they sold out for that blitz and it worked. But I mean, to allow one sack to the Eagles, defensive line, I consider that a win, even though, they were applying pressure and stuff, but it wasn't like Matt Ryan was on his back all night, which it seemed like could happen pregame.
Oh, yeah.
Not. And they play, I mean, were they the greatest offensive line ever? No. But by what we have expected throughout the preseason and week 1, I'd give them like a B. Like, they didn't ruin anything, I don't think.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. Like, Matt Ryan he's not one of those quarterbacks that needs an elite offensive line in front of him to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's shown that he just needs, like, competence in front of him. He doesn't need, like, the top offensive line in the NFL. He doesn't need elite blocking. He can navigate the pocket just fine. He can deal with pressure. But, like, he just can't be literally getting hit, like, every single play. Like, no quarterback can survive in those circumstances, except maybe Russell Wilson. But, Ryan, I thought he's really evolved. His pocket presence is so much better than it used to be. Obviously, this wasn't, like, a great example of him tonight. He just made a couple bad decisions with the ball, but he was navigating the pocket well. The deep shots are still kind of taking shape. Ridley looks amazing. We'll get to the receivers here, but yeah, I mean, like we saw in 2016, they don't need a great offensive line; they just need a good one, and that's fine. And that's what they had in 2016. It's not like Chris Chester was some elite right guard. Like, this dude was like slightly above average, and that's what they need. So,
what did I'm looking at the chat because
Yeah.
I did it last time, and now I'm aware of the chat. Tyrone James. Shout out to Tyrone James. He said, what did you guys think about the offensive play calling? Because, last week it was a little rough, but I'll let you go first.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it was a little mixed. I was on, I'm definitely team analytics, so, like, 2nd and 10 runs to me are, like, that's, like, against my religion. But, to be fair, I thought Cutter also dialed up some really good plays, too. Like, he threw that, obviously that Julio screen on 4th and 3, that was perfect. That was a perfect play call for that. Like, I vilified him for some screens earlier in the game, but on that short play where you only need a couple yards, and let's do it. Like, dial it up.
Was that him or was that Ryan? Because I remember they re-showed it and it seemed like Ryan changed something up. So I'm not even sure.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Presumably they sent him into the huddle with those 2 plays, or he had
But he has given him more freedom.
Yes.
So I think you're right about that. Like,
Yeah.
he does seem more in control, which isn't always a good thing, because Matt Ryan can make mistakes, as we saw. But I don't know, but it seemed like based on how he went up to the line.
I
don't know what this means, but he was check something up.
It's probable
if
that
comes out that was him.
Yeah.
That was clutch, but
I assume that they designed it when they went into that 4th down with like 2 plays, probably running a pass, and if Ryan liked what he saw from the coverage, he could check it into that screenplay, and presumably he did that. So that type of play is also you do give some credit to the offensive coordinator for giving your quarterback the flexibility, and I'm sure Cutter and Ryan and everybody probably jointly worked on this offense to a degree. So I do want to at least give Cutter credit for allowing Ryan the flexibility or the play call, whichever one it was. That was nice. And then I thought there were some other smart calls throughout the evening. I mean, it wasn't a perfect game. This is really giving me flashbacks to like 2012 and stuff like that. Like, where it's like, I thought Cutter called a pretty good game. Like, it wasn't perfect. There's a few things I changed, and that's kind of how I feel. I think Cutter's an above-average offensive play caller. I don't think he's special like Shanahan, but I think that with the talent the Falcons have, he should be more than enough for this team to be an elite offense. Like, they don't need elite play calling with these weapons. They don't. Like, when Shanahan was here and they had Julio and then Sanu and then a bunch of, like, role players like Taylor Gabriel and Aldrick Robinson at receiver, you might need a little scheme there to make that into, one of the greatest offenses of NFL history. With these weapons, you can just get by with, like, a pretty good scheme, I think. So, Ignacio, I do see your question about the 4th and 14. I will get to that in a minute. But, did you have any thoughts on the play calling tonight?
I mean, just pretty much what you mentioned, and I do like seeing Matt Ryan be able to make some changes at the line. And then on top of that, for anybody who isn't on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, the Julio touchdown, as impressive as it was also he now leads the he's the all-time Falcons franchise leader in receiving yards. Can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but he broke Roddy White's number. So that was kind of a bigger everybody's excited because it was like, such a great moment to win the game essentially. But it also was a big, it was a history, Falcons history moment right there.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure will be talked about more later on. But it was just so exciting. You couldn't really focus on something like that. But it was a Falcons game. Like, that's kind of the crap we're used to, where we get comfortable for a second and, we allowed the team to come back and, But, it was solid. I wanted to ask you, I don't know if somebody mentioned it in the thing, but I find it interesting that Freeman really is struggling at running. But, Ito Smith is seeming to, right now, the first 2 weeks, not a hot take here, but Ito Smith's been our best running back in terms of running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't really used him a ton, Ito Smith I'm talking about, in the passing game, but and they've used Freeman a little bit more. But just strictly running the ball, Ito Smith's been our best running back. And that's kind of, I don't know, Freeman's just kind of a little rusty, but 11 attempts for 22 yards, and Ito Smith had 4 carries for 32 yards.
Mm-hmm.
One did go for 28 yards.
That was a big one. No, people have asked about Freeman as well, and I do think it's somewhat a matter of Freeman, knocking off the rust from being, away, being out for a year. That's not easy to come back from. It takes time. I haven't thought Freeman's looked bad necessarily. I don't think he's looks quite like his old self. But I'm not overly concerned at this point. The good news is, like you mentioned, Ito Smith is right there. He's available.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Hill's right there, available. Quadri Ellison's right there, available. If Freeman continues to really struggle, I would hope that this team is willing to kind of maybe put him in more of a passing down role, because he's still a very quality receiver. He might have the most secure hands of any running back on the team. So that's definitely something he can still do. And I don't think he's ever going to have no role on this team, but if Ito Smith, I think, proves that he's just the better actual runner, we'll probably see more of a split at least, and maybe more of Ito Smith in general. They're running backs that can kind of do a lot of the same things, and that's honestly, I think, why they valued Ito Smith higher than most of the NFL teams, is because they really saw in him a similar skill set to Freeman, and they're pretty interchangeable, so that's good.
Yep.
But are you concerned?
Go
ahead. Yeah.
Just an update. I was just scrolling Twitter to see any post-game stuff. So McGarry told Jason Butt of The Athletic that what happened was, I guess they were looking at his knee. I thought it was an ankle injury.
Yeah.
But apparently they tested his knee to make sure it was structurally fine, and it was, and that's why he was able to come back out. They're going to, obviously do checks on it and stuff, I guess, tomorrow. But so it was his knee. So,
interesting.
Dodged something, because they wouldn't have, the knee is probably one of the most important parts of the offensive line, and they're not going to bring him out there if there's a risk of re-injury. So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. So that's a big bullet dodged. So thankful for him. I would have been satisfied with him just coming back this week and being fine, but to actually get back in the game, that's some superhuman shit, man. That's craziness.
Well, it's a good look too. It shows he's hungry after what he's went through this preseason, not really getting to play except for that final game.
Yeah.
And he's got a reputation for being a tough guy. So, to see him in his second actual NFL game being you know what, I want to go back out there, where he could have just been I'm going to call it anything and, not risk it. But they apparently didn't see anything too harmful and was able to go back out there and finish the game. So good for him.
Yeah, that's really impressive to me. I'm happy for him that he was able to get back out there and didn't suffer anything long term. So thank God for that, because I would have gone into an even deeper hole if we if we lost him for the year.
Yeah,
just on the back of Chris Lindstrom going out.
It would have put a damper on the evening.
Yeah, sure. That would have been a darkness type situation. So I know people are asking about Freeman and his long-term future here. And I do want to touch on that because it's an interesting discussion to have, in my opinion. And it's nothing personal against Freeman. I really do think Freeman is going to be fine this year. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he rebounds and has 1,000 yards again. Like, it's still really early in the season. He's knocking off rust. I'm not concerned. But for contract purposes, we know the Falcons are really up against it next year. Just plain as day. They're going to need to make some cuts. So Freeman is one of those places they could save money in 2020. And with all their moves at running back, the writing is kind of on the wall that this was a long-term plan regardless of how he played this year. If he plays really well, maybe they try to trade him. But they could decide to move on from Freeman. If they made him a post-June 1st cut, they would save $6.5 million against the cap. They would, however, have $3 million in dead money this year and next year. So they don't get away scot-free, but they do save over $6 million in 2020, $6.3 million in 2021, and $8.2 million in 2022. So they save most of the deal in that scenario. That's just something to keep in mind. All right. Thoughts on Beasley? I mean, he was fine, Vlad. I thought he was fine. I'm still not the biggest fan of giving him that contract. He's got to prove to me that he can earn that money. And this was a step in the right direction, I thought. I know some people were really like getting on him for Wentz getting off that pass on 4th and 14, but like that was not Beasley. Like Beasley had him wrapped up. He was trying to bring that man down. And Wentz is just a freak of nature. Like he's so strong. Not a lot of quarterbacks are going to escape that hit. Like Drew Brees would have fallen down like a sack of bricks. A lot of quarterbacks would. Matt Ryan probably as well. So I don't really blame him for that play, but he needs to show the consistency. That's been my issue with him. All right, let's see. We're going to wrap up here pretty soon, folks. Foles better than Wentz. I mean, hey, Nick Foles hasn't exactly had great games against the Falcons either, to be fair. But, yeah. I mean, a lot of people asking about the offensive line still. I mean, to break it down, like I thought Jamon Brown was fine. Jamon Brown actually seems to be Fletcher Cox's kryptonite. Like he shut him down whenever he played with the Giants. I don't really understand that one, but hey, won't argue with it. I thought Mack was good. Carpenter has been solid as well. Matthews honestly has been the one I think has struggled over the first 2 weeks, but he's probably our best offensive lineman, so I'm not really concerned about him either. So, Ignacio. Go ahead. Yeah,
I don't want to mess her name up.
Yeah.
I think it's Aditya. Asked basically what we thought attack. He looked good.
Yeah,
he had a high motor. He was even though he wasn't getting the sacks from it. He was definitely moving the lineman. I'm pretty sure it was Jason Peters he was going against, who will probably be in the Hall of Fame someday. He left towards the end with some sort of injury, but he was having his way on that right side. I was really impressed with Tack. It may not show up in the stats, but if you rewatch it, it was like he just looked like he was really every play he was out there was getting in there and disrupting the pocket, which is at times just as good as a sack because it allows people to offensive linemen to bump into each other and somebody else might break in free or whatever. But I was really impressed with him tonight.
Yeah. I mean, the pressures aren't going to show up on the stat sheet until the PFF guys and some of the more advanced watchers get in there and do it. But Tack is going to have a lot of pressures in this game, even if he didn't come away with a lot of sacks. He was consistently putting the pressure on. And to be fair, I think the pressures are the more important stat when evaluating a pass rusher, because sacks, like we saw in this game, like dead to rights on Wentz multiple times, and he just manages to slip away because he's Carson Wentz. And a lot of quarterbacks can't do that, but some can. So it's like, do you blame the defender there? I don't think so. So the pressure shows that they impacted the play. And outside of, I think, one of those almost sacks was the only one that led to, I think, a first down. I think all the other ones he had to throw it away, or he didn't quite get it there, or it didn't end up making the first down. That last one obviously did, but against a lot of quarterbacks, those are sacks, 100% of the time. So yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, before we forget, Jose Rodriguez in the chat mentioned, I'm not even sure if we mentioned it, but Julio, that play probably doesn't happen without Jake Matthews block, it was just so textbook, like perfect. And it was that was such a clutch moment because it's going to get lost in the play itself because it was, Julio Jones is a freak. But Matthews really was a team player right there.
Yeah.
But I'll let you talk about it.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Like that.
I just want to make sure we got that in there because there's
it's
so
important.
much for us to talk about. I'm glad, we've got all these people in the chat, giving us more because it was that was a long, crazy game. It was literally a roller coaster.
That probably took some years off my life, but it was worth it to get the W. But yeah, I mean that Matthews pancake block, that was one of the best blocks of the season for any team so far. I mean that was textbook, just flattened the guy. The Eagles have been blitzing the Falcons all game, and like the Falcons were like, you know what, I'm done with this nonsense. Like we're not playing this anymore. All right, Jake Matthews, get out there and flatten that guy when he tries to cover this screen, and he did. He flew out there and pancaked him at the perfect time. I mean, that play was just perfectly executed all around. Obviously, Julio Jones is amazing and was able to just turn on the jets and spring that thing for the touchdown. Just a fantastic play all around. So we had our crazy play there. They had their crazy play with Wentz almost getting sacked and getting that fourth and 14 pass off. So those two kind of canceled each other out, in my opinion. They were both like just incredible plays that probably shouldn't have happened, but did because these are the best NFL. These are the best football players in the world. Stuff like that happens sometimes. Do you got any? Obviously, the Saints lost today, so this is like a double whammy. Perfect day here for the Falcons, who are now tied atop the NFC South. So
the Panthers lost on Thursday, which I mean, arguably
that's
most
better.
people would probably more them than the Bucs. So and the Panthers lost today at home too, so that's even worse. But a pretty good day for Falcons fans. I mean, and what's next on our schedule? Colts?
The Colts, yeah. So we got to go to Indy to play
Andrew Luckless Colts.
Yeah, to play Jake Brisket and slice me off a piece of that brisket. Yeah. Shout out to the Around the NFL podcast for that one. That's a good drop. That's a great drop. But that's going to be an interesting game. Obviously, we're going to talk about it a lot this week. That's a game the Falcons should be able to pull out here. Hopefully, they can start to string together two good performances. That would be nice. But the Colts are absolutely not a pushover. They have a good defense. Brissett is like a solid quarterback. Like he is a starter. He's he was their backup, but he's a starter quality. They just gave him starter money, so he is their starter now. So don't go into this game treating Brissett like he's a backup. He's not Andrew Luck. Don't get me wrong, but he's not a backup either. So prepare for this game like we're going up against a team with a starting quarterback. Because I'm sure the Falcons are going to be treating it like that.
Me and you were talking about last time I was on your show about how going into this Eagles game 0-1 wasn't ideal obviously, but if we left 0-2 that was not very good.
That was bad.
And now how do you feel being 1-1 knowing I can't remember what order it's in, but we have like we just talked about the Colts. And then we play the Titans. I don't know if it's right after, but we play basically the AFC South.
It's my laptop background, so I'm going to pull it up here. The schedule is. That helps. All right, here we go. Yeah, so we play the Colts next week, then the Titans, then the Texans. And then after that we have the Cardinals. and then we get the Rams at home. So that's a stretch I think the Falcons probably should win at least probably 2 out of 3 of those games. I would think is a reasonable expectation. That Texans game is going to be tough. The Texans are very frisky. They're a good team. That's going to be a tough game to win. The Titans have a good defense. They did lose today, so they're not a perfect team, but they're solid at worst. And the Colts, like we said, it's Brissett and a good defense. That's not a gimme, but that's a game that we should probably expect to win. And then the Cardinals, who the hell knows what the Cardinals are at this point. I certainly don't. Maybe they're
Kyler Murray's coming out game probably.
Yeah, probably. Hopefully he's had a coming out game by then. That's like week 6 or something. So come on, man, get it together. No, it's.
Somebody was asking about it's not exactly Falcons related right now, but the Drew Brees injury, and we were talking about the NFC South. want to give them Solaire of Astora.
Oh yeah, Solaire. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just like to give them a little shout out for their comment.
For sure.
But I mean, I'm not a doctor. It didn't look good. People were saying it was like a jam thumb, and I do know they said on, I was reading on Twitter that he's seeing a hand specialist in LA. Yeah. So I'm sure there'll be more news tomorrow or the next day or whatever. But he didn't return, and Teddy Bridgewater finished the game. And I mean, he wasn't terrible or anything, but that's a definite,
Yeah.
You don't want to see people get hurt.
No, of course not. But that's a killer injury for them because, like, Bridgewater is like decent, but he's not Drew Brees. That offense is not going to be able to run at the same clip. And their defense has been kind of exposed these first 2 games. The Texans ran up and down the field on him, and the Rams did the exact same thing. This is I think we could all see this coming. The Saints defense every once in a while puts together a good season, but they're really not that great. Like, they're just not. Like, their linebackers played out of their mind last year. I just don't expect that to continue. So, I mean, the kind of quote-unquote bad news, I guess, for the Falcons is they don't play the Saints until November. They do play them twice in November. So if this is like a 3, we're not sure from what I've seen from the Twitter doctors that I follow. There's some significant concern about the injury to Brees. They're worried it's a ligament tear of some kind. The fact that he did not fly home with the team is a bad sign.
Yeah, I think it's that Dr. Chow or whatever.
Yeah.
He's like probably the biggest one that, people follow on Twitter. He mentioned he has a website or whatever, but somebody mentioned it. He basically said that it could be, he didn't want to go on record as saying Drew Brees is out for the year, but he did make a comparison that, about what you were saying, the torn ligaments, which has ended the season for certain players. I think he mentioned Jay Cutler. I can't remember who else he mentioned, but players have missed the rest of the year based on if it's torn ligaments. And me and you don't know currently, but like I said, I know we hate the Saints and stuff like that, but you don't want to see somebody, you don't want to, they take pride in beating our ass last year while we had all our defensive stars out, but we're better than that, and we don't want to, we want to beat them at their best. We don't want to give them that little, we didn't have Drew Brees, so that's why you beat us.
Well, the excuses are going to fly, if he's out for the season.
It will.
Like, when
that's
they get crushed.
Hope Drew Brees is fine so that we can beat their ass with their best talent on the field.
Yeah, of course.
And then they won't have anything to run behind. Even though it'll probably be something ref related.
Probably. Then we'll transition back to the complaining about the officials. But it's obviously I hope Brees is okay. The problem is, like, with the season started, there's just the season is so condensed once it actually starts. Like, we're talking about September, October, November, December, and then it's the postseason. That's 4 months right there. So if this is even like a 3-month thing, you're out for almost the entire season. And at that point, hopefully he'll be able to come back sooner rather than later. The question becomes, like, can the Saints stay competitive and hold it down until he gets back, if he is able to make some sort of comeback, and that will probably determine whether he plays again this season more than anything. If they can stay competitive without him, and I'm not sure they can. I mean, it's not like the team has no talent outside of Brees, so it's certainly a possibility that they are kind of able to tread water with Bridgewater, but I don't think this team is, like, scaring anyone with Bridgewater at quarterback, unfortunately. So, unfortunately for the Saints, fortunately for the Falcons and everybody else in the NFC South, but we'll see what happens.
You could just tell a difference when Bridgewater came in. They were still, like, were they the Dolphins? No, but they were a team still that could beat you if you let your guard down.
I kind of look at them like the Colts if Brees is out. Like, they're still, like, serviceable. Like, they're probably 8-8, 9-7 team without Brees, but with Brees, they could be competing for a championship. So it's just a drop off. Same thing with Andrew Luck. Basically, same situation. So,
but it's something to monitor in the next days. We can't help if players are hurt and stuff like that, but we just got to enjoy our win, improve on, our imperfections, and move on. Because when it becomes, late November and stuff, we're not going to be, enjoy this win right now, but hopefully we're in a better place than where it's like, because 2016 we didn't start off hot. We lost to the Buccaneers. Even though you want to enjoy the win, but you also got to look at the little things where we screwed up. But don't panic or anything. Just enjoy, this week, and we'll see what happens next week.
Yep. I'm glad to see there's some Drew Brees, Matt Ryan debate going on in the chat. This is what we need.
Really?
This is what we need. Yeah. Sorry that, obviously I'm not trying to trash a guy while he's injured. That's low class. But, just saying that Drew Brees hasn't had a better season than Matt Ryan since like 2015. So, you have to go back quite a ways to say that Drew Brees is a better quarterback than Matt Ryan without your fan goggles on. So, just saying.
Or Chris Collinsworth.
Well, yeah, but Chris Collinsworth only watches one football game a week, so the one that he's announcing. So, all right, folks. Well, we went really long. This was a fun show. Happy to do it for you guys. Thank all 130 of you that are still on at freaking 1 a.m. for hanging out with us.
What's the normal number?
Not that high. Maybe we get. Yeah, that's. It's great. We really appreciate you guys coming in.
This is fun.
Like we said before, if you don't mind throwing us a like and subscribe, we do appreciate that. It does help the channel out in some way, algorithmically. We appreciate those if you guys don't mind. We will be back on Wednesday night to recap the game with a little bit more detail and analysis once we had some time to digest. We'll be talking about obviously the Colts game. And then, we'll be back again Sunday after the Colts game to recap that as well. So, in the meantime, I want to thank my co-host, Mr. Evan Birchfield, at Evan Birchfield on Twitter, for coming in tonight. Evan, anything you're working on you want to plug?
No, not really. I just got my Brother of the Week article, which drops on Tuesday. Basically just highlights a guy who isn't going to get a ton of credit nationally or anything like Julio Jones will. But did a lot for the team, which right now I'll have to go back and review because there was a lot of silent heroes in that game. And then also, if you're into fantasy football, I have a fantasy article that comes out usually Friday or Saturday, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I basically called Calvin Ridley having a good game, and he did, and he should have had actually a better one if that ball was thrown correctly. So. And you, as you said, you can follow me on Twitter at Evan Birchfield, and I'll talk to you about whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, who was that? James Jackson. You got your shout out request in right at the end, so there you go. I'll honor that one. So there's your shout out request. But yeah, guys, so definitely check out Evan's stuff. It's great, and one fantasy league. Fun fact: I ended up with Calvin Ridley as my wide receiver 1, and I'm about to be 2-0. So. Hey, miracles can happen.
He's really useful. Without the Julio Jones thing, he would have had a better day than Julio for 2 straight games. So
yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, guys, I'm Kevin Knight. You can follow me at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter. Gonna have a whole slew of stuff this week. Monday I'll have something up tomorrow, and then more stuff throughout the week. Pretty much every day I got something coming out, so check that out. Check out the site, thefalcoholic.com. Tremendous Falcons content. I don't know how you found this show if you don't already follow the Falcoholic, but if you don't, you should. It's quality. The best Falcons content on all the interwebs, so we appreciate you. We even appreciate, apparently, the Saints fans that tuned in. So, yeah, cool, guys. Cool. You guys can hang out with us. That's fine. We don't judge here. I see we're at 666 playbacks, so we should probably wrap it up now. That's probably a sign. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us for this win. So we will see you guys on Wednesday night, 8:10 p.m. Until next time, I'm Kevin. He's Evan. That's really dangerous. I'm going to mess that up at some point, I guarantee. But thank you guys. We will see you on Wednesday. Have a great night.